Appreciate Him very much. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Genesis 1, verse 1. I mentioned, I think it was last Sunday or the Sunday before, that might be the most profound statement ever written. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. We mentioned last week how that word hovering brought with it kind of like the idea of a hen brooding over her eggs so that they would grow, they would hatch, they would come to what they would grow into what they were supposed to grow into. And so we have the Spirit of God doing that very thing, hovering or brooding over this world, this universe, the heavens and the earth. And that's where we left. Now we start seeing divisions. He says, then God said, verse 3, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness He called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. You know, there is, as I was looking at all these different things to say about these verses, I thought, you know, every one of these verses is a sermon in and of itself. And so we could probably spend literally months on Genesis chapter 1. And maybe, Lord willing, if He allows us to live that long, someday we'll do that very thing. But I kind of want us to look at the first 5 days of creation kind of as a whole, because I think there's some important reasons to look at it as a whole. One of those reasons is found here in that very first day when it said, then God said. In other words, that's all it was. That's all it took for light to come into existence was God saying. It was just, sometimes it's called divine fiat. He just spoke it into existence. You and I think I've mentioned this before, simply can't imagine what that is. Because you and I can't do that. We can't speak something into existence. We can't even imagine someone having that power to speak something into existence. So when we saw in those first two verses, it was talking about the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. So in this creation week, right, 7 days that we'll end up looking at, in that creation week, the first day, what did He do? He said, let there be light, and behold what? There was light. It happened just like that. So He just spoke light into He spoke light into existence. There was darkness, and then there was light. And what did He do? He saw the light that it was good. Everything God does is good. If you look there in these days of creation, you'll see that everything He did was good. It was perfect. In other words, He made it for the exact reason He wanted to make it. You know, James chapter 1 talks about every good gift and every perfect gift comes down from the Father of lights. So everything that He did in creation was perfect. Everything He created was perfect for its purpose. And everything had a purpose. Light and darkness had a purpose. And we'll see all these others. They all had a purpose. So it says He divided the light from the darkness. So there was a division. There was a division between the two. And of course, if there weren't, there would not be any life on earth. There has to be a division between light and darkness for life to exist. And when you look at every day and what He did on every day, it all had a purpose so that there could be life on earth, especially mankind. You and I couldn't exist if there wasn't light and darkness. So it's all leading up to, of course, the sixth day when He makes man. It's all leading up to that fact. So He says then that He called, now He's naming. He's naming things. He's giving things names. Well, what did He call the light? He called the light day. We're in the light right now, aren't we? So we're in the day. That's pretty simple. How can you misunderstand that? I don't know, but people do. I'm constantly amazed every day how people misunderstand the most simple concepts. And He says, I'm going to call the light day. So He named it. Just like we, name certain things or name people or whatever, He named the light day. And what else did He do? He named the darkness night. Well, here in a little bit we're going to have night, aren't we? And that's so simple to understand. Part of our existence is spent in the light, and part of it's spent in the darkness. Part of it's spent in the day, part of it's spent at night. You know what day is, don't you? I could ask probably a 6-year-old, they would know what day is, and they know what night is, don't they? But yet so many people who, I guess, think that they're intellectually the elite can't understand that. It is so simple. There's day and there's night. What's hard about that to understand? God created it that way. He separated it. And He says, even so that we'll make sure there's no way to misunderstand it. And do people misunderstand it? Yeah, and I'm surprised again every day. He says the evening and the morning were what? The first day. What was the first day? I know. It was the evening and the morning. How do I know that? He just said it was. Those 3 verses are so easy to understand. So why do people say they mean something else? There's only one reason why people say they mean something else. It's so that it will align with either what some so-called expert says, or someone in this college said, or someone said that. That's the only reason anybody would come up with a different meaning of those 3 verses. Because God wrote it so plainly that a very, very young person can understand exactly what He meant. He defined everything. He defined day and night. He defined what the light and darkness was. We know what it is. It's not something mysterious or nebulous or out there that's difficult to understand. It's so simple to understand. The day is when we have light. The night is when it's dark. But what's the day that He's talking about? He says the evening and the morning were the what? First day. How many in here know what an evening is? I know what an evening is. I think most very young people know what an evening is. What's a morning? Everybody in here knows what the morning is too. The only way to misunderstand these verses or get them to give some other meaning is to try and fit some other person's idea of how the world came into existence. Other than that, there's no purpose in saying it means something other than it obviously means. God, there were so many things that He didn't include because we couldn't understand them, obviously, because we can't understand someone being able to speak something into existence. We can't understand that. So He couldn't explain how He brought light into existence. Well, we can't understand that. We recognize light. We recognize darkness. And He even tells us again what the day was. An evening and a morning. We have those days, don't we? Today had an evening and a morning. I recognized it. And most people will say I'm not that bright. So I understood what the evening and morning was. Why can't other people understand that? Well, they don't want to understand it like God said it. That's the only reason. There are no other reasons for it. Same way with the rest of the chapter. People misunderstand it on purpose. That's the reason. So, what happens next? Then God said, let there be a firmament, or probably more precisely in the Hebrew it's expanse, in the midst of the waters, and let it divide. Here's another division. Let it divide the waters from the waters. Thus God made the firmament, the expanse, and divided the waters which were under the firmament, the expanse, from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so, and God called the firmament heaven. So the evening and the morning were the second day. Last week we talked about the fact that the Bible mentions 4 different heavens here. Obviously here he's not talking about where we have a soul, where our spirit goes, any of that. He's talking probably a good term as far as the words we use today. They didn't use those words back at that time. Is atmosphere. That's probably the best thing. And God called the firmament, the expanse, the atmosphere. Because that's what the atmosphere does. And so what did He do? He divided the waters. How did He do that? It doesn't say. There's all kind of ways I suppose He could have done it. It just says He did it. He divided the waters above and below. And God called the firmament heaven, so the evening and the morning were the second day. That's what He did on the second day. What was the second day? It was a day that had an evening and a morning. I know it was because He just said it was. So it wasn't 250,000 years, where the evening was 125,000 years and the morning was 125,000 years, because that's just stupid. How could you ever read that and believe that? But people do. Why? There's only one reason people say it means something else. Because it doesn't agree with what certain groups or certain people or whatever teach. That's the only reason. There is no other reason. Because they don't want to be looked down as being, oh, you're just an ignorant, literal Bible believer. That's the only reason. Don't let them fool you. That's it. It's the only reason. So we've defined He has what He's done. There was a division on the first day. There's a division on the second day. Now notice what happens on the third day. So He's divided the light from darkness, and now He's divided the waters below from the waters above. And there's enough. Let's go on to the third day before I mention that. Verse 9, then God said, let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place. Another division. See? Another division is taking place. And let the dry land appear, and it was so. So what did He do? Now He's dividing the water, this water under the firmament, under the expanse, into 2 parts. Now He's making another division. There's going to be dry land and there's going to be water. Why? Because we have to have it that way. We can't exist any other way. See, He's making all this for us. He's not making it for the insects, the plants, the animals. He's making it for us. We're the crowning part of His creation. So He's making everything perfectly so you and I can live in this world. That's what He's doing. So a division on the first day, division on the second day, division on the third day. All of those divisions are essential for you and I to live. For humanity, for humans to live in this world. All of the divisions are necessary. So He's divided now. There's dry land, which we need, and water, which we need. So He's divided it into 2 parts. And He's naming them. See how He names things? So He's naming them. So what does He do? He names the dry land earth. And the gathering together of the waters He called seas. And God saw that it was good. See, it was good. What? It was good for us. See, it was perfect for us. All of these things, even science admits that all of these things are necessary for humans to live in this world. Light and darkness, atmosphere and waters above and below, dry land and water. All of those are essential for us to live. We couldn't survive without them. So what's God doing? He's preparing a place for us to live and prosper. And that's what He's doing. It's marvelous what He's doing. Just like we prepared a place when Victoria came into our lives, what did we do? We prepared a place in our house for her to live. What did we do? Well, we did this, we bought that, and we did that, and this. Preparing it so it'd be the best possible place for her to live. That's what God is doing for us. Again, not for the animals, the plants, or insects. Those are all important. Those are all important for our existence. And so He's preparing all of this for us. And He's naming these things. And that's exactly what He's doing. But these were all direct acts of creation. Then God said. That's all it took. This earth was all covered with water, and then God just said, just spoke it, and just instantly it all divided, just like He wanted it to. Amazing. You know, I can't understand all that. And what kind of physical processes did He use? He didn't say. He didn't say. Should I be concerned about it? No, because He didn't say. Some things that He didn't leave for us. He did tell us what He did. He didn't tell us how He did it. So first day, they had an evening and morning. Second day had an evening and a morning. Now we're on the third day. And what else is going to happen? Well, He's got dry land now, and He's got the seas. What else happens? Verse 11, Then God said, Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb that yields seed, and the fruit tree that yields fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth, and it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, the herb that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit, whose seed is in itself according to its kind. And God saw that it was good, so the evening and the morning were the third day. How long was this day compared to the day before? Exactly the same length of time, because they both had an evening and a morning. And how long was that day compared to the first day? The same. How long are our days? Each day has an evening and morning. Each day has light and darkness. There's no different. Our days are exactly like those days. There's no reason to conclude otherwise. So what did He create? Now He's creating life. Not human life, but He's creating the vegetable kingdom, the plant kingdom. And He divides it into three groups: the grass, the herbs, the trees. And all of them reproduce after its kind. All of them were made, notice. And of course they all have different lengths of their lives, but they were all made old enough to reproduce after its kind. The grass was not made as a seed. The herb wasn't made as a seed. The tree wasn't made as a seed. They were all adult, because they all could do what? Reproduce after their kind. That's the way He made them. How do I know that? Very simple, because it's what He said. How can I misunderstand that? There's no way unless I want it to try and mean something else. Now notice, this is very, very, very different than what many people in science teach. Because where did life begin? Life began on the land, not in the water. On the land. Plant life, if you read many science books or articles by those who believe in evolution, they say nothing about plant life. I've noticed that for years. The idea of where plants come from, even the evolutionists don't have a clue. Don't even talk about it. I mean, you can be a botanist or anything that deals with those, and it's hardly even mentioned. Because they have no idea. Nothing fits. How did plants come from nothing? They don't have any idea. Now we know, but their way of thinking, of course, doesn't allow the supernatural or miracles or creation, so they don't have a clue. So what do? They ignore it. It's never written about or discussed or anything. It just never is. Because they don't even have a remote possibility, according to their thinking, about where trees and grass and herbs could have possibly came from. It makes no sense to them. So since it doesn't fit their theories, what do? They ignore it. Constantly ignore it. Because they can't even imagine what could have happened. So life did not start in the water, started on land, started on dry land. What do these things need? If you go to Lowe's and buy a tree and plant it, what do? You find a big rock pile and put the tree in the rock pile? No, it's not going to grow there. What do? You have to find the right soil. So what do we know that God did on day 3? Well, the soil, the land, had to have everything in it to grow those plants. It had to have all the nutrients and minerals and so forth already in it, or all the plants and grass and herbs would have died instantly. They wouldn't have lasted. So He had to make this dry land perfect. And different types of grass and herbs and trees all need different types of soil, don't they? So He had to make the soil just right for all of those things to grow. Usually what happens? That takes years, doesn't it, for you to have the right type of soil. But God made it instantaneous. He made the soil instantaneously have all of that ready for grass and herbs and trees to grow. See, again, those people who believe in the theory of evolution had no idea. They can't possibly explain anything like that. So they ignore it. So that was the 3rd day. What kind of day was it? It was the day that had an evening and a morning. That's the same kind of day I've had. It had an evening and a morning, and there's been light and darkness. Same type of day. So what else happens? Well, we see the next day, day 4. Then God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth." And it was so. Then God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. God set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good, so the evening and the morning were the 4th day. There is so much in those verses, and we have little time to talk about any of them. Why do we have stars, and why do we have the planets, and why do we have the moon, and why do we have all of that? Well, He said right there, they're for signs and seasons and days and years. That's how we tell these things, don't we? That's how we know passing of days and years and seasons and so forth. Those obviously mean right there exactly what they mean today. We have days, don't we? My day started early, probably in late. But it's a day. And today's exactly the same length of time it was yesterday. And I didn't record it, but it was probably the exact same length of time as 2 days ago. So He made these things to measure days. What about years? Years are longer than days. I know that for a fact. I've experienced years, and years last longer than days. They're not the same thing. So these days in Genesis chapter 1 are not years. They're much shorter than years, aren't they? Why do people claim that the days are longer? They're vast periods, maybe millions, hundreds of millions of years. There's only one reason for that. So it'll fit what some other people think is the truth. That's the only reason they do it. There is no other reason for it. And that's sad. And all of those countless people will find out one day that they believed a lie their whole life. And that's, of course, is the saddest part of it. Whether they're young or old, when they leave this world, they will find out when they leave this world that they believed a lie. And think about all the people who are believing lies nowadays. It is sad. That's the worst part, is because it's sad. Because they're believing lies. So they're in the heavens. And it says He put lights in the heavens. If you look at the original language, and I think this is probably what He means by that, they were there. He made them on day one. But He didn't set them in motion to do these things, measure times, days, seasons, years, until day 4. And there's a lot of support for that idea. But either way, on day 4, they started their commission. They were given a job. All the stars and the planets and all these things, they have a job to do. God put them in the heavens for a purpose. And one of those purposes is to mark the passing of time. Seasons and days and years. That's why we have seasons, right? It's because the earth is rotating around the sun. Not rotating, revolving around the sun. That's why we have seasons. We wouldn't know that otherwise. But that's why He put it there. To do that very thing. And He made 2 great lights. The greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night. And of course that's what the sun does, right? The greater light, the sun, rules the day. But what happens at night? The moon rules the night. Right? The moon rules the night. Which has the greater amount of light? Obviously the sun. That's why it's called the greater light. The moon meant much less. It says He made the stars also. And if you'll notice the word made there is in italics. It's not in the original. So He set them in the firmament in the heavens to give light. And of course that's what they do. And God saw that it was good. And that was the 4th day. How different was that day from day 3? It wasn't different at all. He uses the exact same phrase, the exact same words to describe day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. They're exactly the same. No difference whatsoever. Then God said, let the waters abound with an abundance of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the face of the firmament of the heavens. So God created great sea creatures, and every living thing that moves with which the waters abounded according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good, and God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth. So the evening and the morning were the 5th day. So what did He do on day 5? He created everything that was in the waters and in the air. But what did He tell them to do? Be fruitful and multiply. So how did He create them? They were old enough to multiply. He didn't create eggs. He didn't create little creatures. They were old enough to multiply. So if you would have saw them 1 second after they were created, you would have done what? Said, that's a fully grown adult catfish. That's not a little tiny thing that big. He created all of these things old enough to multiply, to reproduce. And it says He made all kinds. He didn't just make a few, He made them all. All of these kinds He made. To fill the ocean, to fill the sky. And that's what He did. And the evening and the morning were the 5th day. How different was day 5 than day 4, 3, 2, or 1? It wasn't different at all. Exact same language, exact same expression, exact same words. They were all exactly the same. They all had a division of light and darkness. They all had a division of evening and morning. They were a regular day. There's no reason whatsoever to assume otherwise. They were the same. And as I mentioned 2 weeks ago, I believe it was, the only reason we have weeks today is because of Genesis chapter 1. That's the only reason we have a week. All those people that believe in evolution, they follow a 7-day week. Well, they may not realize that what they're doing is they're paying reverence to God because He made the week. That's the only reason we have a week is because of Genesis chapter 1. The only reason we have a week is because of Genesis chapter 1. It's the only reason we have a Sunday or a Monday or a Tuesday or Wednesday. Because of Genesis chapter 1. Amazing account. No one else was there. This is the only account given anywhere in the world that tells us the origin of all these things. It's the only place. We need to give God's Word more respect, more reverence, more devotion, more commitment, because it's the only true, accurate account of where we came from, why we're here, and where we're headed. It's the only account. We know why we're here. The Bible tells us we were created in God's image, and we're created to bring Him glory in everything we do. And of course we do that by becoming a child of God, by experiencing the new birth, by having our sins remitted, forgiven when we're baptized. Then we continue to bring Him glory every day by acknowledging His existence, by thanking Him for His provisions, for His providential care, and for asking forgiveness when we fail. And that's our lesson tonight. We may need to experience the new birth. We may need to ask for forgiveness. We may need to ask for prayers. And if you do, I urge you to come as we stand and sing this song.